I'm Andrew Chung. I'm a partner at Coastal Ventures. I would describe myself as an adventurer, an explorer looking for technologies or products that have the ability to completely change the way that an industry works. I do that as a venture capitalist by trying to find the technologies that can topple industries, that can change and revolutionize humanity and invent the future. I was born in New York City to two very loving immigrant parents who came from the southern part of China. My parents started a Chinese restaurant when I was 5. I got to see very firsthand how difficult it was to start a business, and also got put to work at a very early age. Everything that I learned about entrepreneurship, I learned from them and that experience. When I was, I think 6 or 7, this local town physicist came in, who I guess identified some sort of aptitude in me, and he would come to the restaurant every week and sit down with me and teach me math and physics. And I remember he was teaching me geometry when I was 6, or calculus when I was 10, relativity when I was 12, right? So I didn't understand half of what I was actually reading, but he taught me a lot. And his name was David Lipkin. He spent probably a good 10 years doing that, and that really changed my life, and that helped me accelerate my learning in a lot of different ways. You know, when I was at Harvard, the entrepreneurial bug also bit me. I started my first company when I was 19. It was a web IT consulting company. I ran that company for about a year, and then I decided to go to an enterprise software company in Austin, Texas, of all places, called Trilogy. Started a company about a month in to build what was then an e-commerce platform that was essentially like a universal shopping cart, where you could go to different places online and centralize all your purchases in one place. Later we got sold to another public company up in Seattle, and that was sort of the first entrepreneurial experience. Kind of rode the whole whirlwind roller coaster of the dot-com era, both the highs and the lows. I've been a musician in a past life. Just over 10 years ago, I won Chinese American Idol in the US, and then I went to Hong Kong and I performed in Hong Kong Idol, getting to the final 8 there, and at that point considered signing a contract with one of the largest music labels out there, but then declined and decided to stick to entrepreneurship and go that way. I felt like I had a larger power to make a difference in the business world. One of the things about being a VC is I feel like I'm still close to being an entrepreneur, but I'm able to do it across multiple companies. And often, as an investor, I have to look at investing at the very earliest stages in order to do that. Whether it's an entrepreneur that has a new type of material science on the clean tech side, or an entrepreneur that we know very well that's looking at a new type of business model in the web mobile side that could transform something 5 to 10 years down the road. We're willing to take that very early stage risk that I think some investors aren't willing to do. And it starts with the way that our funds are actually structured. We actually have 2 different types of funds. We have a $350 million seed fund that just does this type of early stage experimentation. And at the right time, we can use our $1 billion main fund to take over and help it grow up to full maturity. Square is one of the companies that we invested in at the very earliest stages. Jack Dorsey was an entrepreneur that we knew very well, who had the idea to revolutionize the payment space by empowering anyone with a mobile device to be able to accept payments. And so Square now has been able to affect the lives of millions of merchants around the world, being able to drive billions of dollars of transactions through their system and fly in the face of companies like Visa or American Express or some of the large payment companies who have really dominated that for decades. One of the companies that I've invested in is the world's largest community for readers and writers. It's called Wattpad. Wattpad created a community of folks who were willing to upload short stories, poetry, chapters of novels, novellas into this community where people can upload this type of content and get real-time feedback from an audience of readers. Think YouTube, but instead of for user-generated video, it's for user-generated writing. Every month, over 10 million visitors come to this website to look at what's now 6 million pieces of content that have been uploaded. If I sell 50,000 copies of a book, I make it to the New York Times bestseller list. There's a 17-year-old that has over 20 million views of her stuff on Wattpad. So we fundamentally believe that this community is the first step in what will topple the publishing industry. One of the things that we do on the venture capital side is to get to know scientists and entrepreneurs that we think are doing amazing things. Don Sadoway is an example of a scientist that I've followed for a long time. 5 years ago, I gave him his first grant to help fund some of his research at MIT. I'm working on this crazy technology called the liquid metal battery. They're able to address a very important part of our energy problem today, which is how do you store energy on the grid? The utilities aren't able to manage supply and demand exactly with all of this added complexity that has happened over the last couple of decades with intermittent sources of energy like solar and wind. So what grid scale storage can do is essentially put a large battery on the grid that can store energy anytime something is being created. This could be something that would help with a lot of the natural disasters that we're seeing. Hurricane Sandy and what's happened there. If we had storage technology, they would be able to draw power from that instead of trying to restart the generators and have the type of power outages that they do. The liquid metal battery happens to be very, very well suited to this type of large-scale, high-current, high-capacity type of energy storage that is very difficult to do cheaply with lithium-ion batteries and other ways of storing electricity today. So for a company like Ambri, their opportunity is to be able to create this market by producing the cheapest, most easily to assemble, and safest batteries that can go on the grid, and essentially create and redefine the electricity infrastructure. I think entrepreneurship is going to be a critical part to how we invent our way into the future. I think we're at a very unique point in history. Broadband is ubiquitous. People can communicate in a way that's much faster and more efficient than ever before. And so it makes any type of innovation magnified dramatically. And it also enables a much faster rollout of different technologies in a way that previously you might be able to contain or control, whereas today it's uncontainable, uncontrollable.